All right, so what is the smallest positive real number? Finally going to tell you. Maybe at least half of you have already correctly discerned what the answer to that question is. So let A be a real number such that A is greater than 0. Then consider A over 2. So an important thing to consider is that if A is a positive number, then A over 2 is still positive, because it's positive divided by positive, you will still have a positive number. Therefore, A over 2 is also a positive number. Also, A over 2, since A is a positive number, A over 2 will be smaller than A. So, for any real number A that is positive, there is always a number that is smaller than A, but still positive. Therefore, there is no smallest positive real number. All right, so that seems like a trivial thing now, but just you wait. This fact is going to become amazingly important. But not right away, but I wanted to ask the question right away. Now, the next thing you're going to do is, and by the way, to those of you who guessed this right away or knew this or figured this out right away, congratulations to you. And those to whom it was an astounding mystery, well, I'm glad you know it now and can enjoy knowing that. All right, so what you're going to do next is post it on the website, and probably also on Google Classroom by now, is limits number 1. This is it, limits number 1. So what you're going to see here is a description of an application of a certain idea. And what I want you to do is, this has a part 1, Roman numeral 1, and I want you to read and do everything in Roman numeral 1. Now, by the way, there's a bit about each person in your group. If you're doing this at home, you don't have a person in your group, so you are all 4 people in the group. Congratulations. All right, so you're going to go through and answer all these questions. I guess I printed this one-sided for some reason. You can fill out a nice chart. And look, it might be obvious what I'm asking you to do. It might not be. I think it's probably pretty clear. So I want you to do your best to complete all this on your own, all the way up here to number 6. Look at this crazy stuff. And basically, but there's nothing here that you've never done before. All of it is asking you to do things that you've already done and analyze the motion of a certain object. Now, when you get to Roman numeral 2 and you start talking about a chemist all of a sudden, stop there. So your goal for this evening is just to do as much as you can of part 1. And then after that, whatever our next class section is, I'm going to go thoroughly through part 1 and give you all the answers, most of the answers, and hints about how to get all of them. So, but I'd like you to go through that on your own. You should start doing that, at your earliest convenience, so you'll be ready for the next class period. Eventually, the entire thing, including part 2, will be collected as homework. But so really how it works is that part 1 is sort of classwork. We would do that in class if we were in class. And part 2 is the homework. So what that means for us is, whether we're in class or not, I'm going to explain to you how to do part 1, but I want you to try and do it on your own first. And then once we've gone over part 1, you'll understand it pretty thoroughly. Then you get to do part 2. That part is the homework part. So it's really like homework here, class work here. It looks long, because it is. It is about you're going to Mars. Mars is cool. Everybody's going to Mars these days. How come everybody's going to Mars all of a sudden? Because it's that close approach. And we're sending tons of robots up to Mars. This is great. I'm all for robots on Mars. I think there's no reason to put people on Mars. Like, what is anybody going to do on Mars that a robot couldn't do at this point? Robots are much cheaper and safer. Perhaps someday soon, you yourself will be designing a robotic trip to Mars. You'll notice in the work, the way I've laid out the situation, there are certain things that are necessarily artificial because we want this to be doable, and yet there's certain things that are kind of realistic about it. So I did my best to walk that line between doable and realistic, and of course, once you're at the level of top NASA engineer, the doable and the reasonable are the same, and you'll be able to do all that stuff. So work on this. answers to be revealed in the next lecture. And then after that, this part will be assigned for homework. So you don't have to start this part 2 yet. Don't do the chemist yet. Just do the robot. All right. Talk to you next time.